you can't take it home. It's just no go. I think the fisheries unfortunately would be happy if you actually gapped it, got the hooks out and threw it back to water dead. It's got 10 days to go. It opens back up on the 22nd, which is on, I think, Wednesday, in 10 days' time. And then it's 6 days of going and catch them non-intentionally, but there's days in on the 1st of, there's a short month, on the 1st of March is closed again, for another 3 weeks. We all know mackerel go right through here to April, May, June, so we've got plenty of time after, it's just about playing it out during that period, unfortunately. Hopefully it's for the better, hopefully we'll get more, and all goes back to normal. Whatever we tell you tonight, I know you can't get practice, like most guys that go the next day or the weekend, they're super hyped up. They can't do that this time. On the smash. Thank you. Sorry about that. It's just the way it is. Thank you, Stuart. Awesome, mate. Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Oh, perfect, mate. Through, isn't it? So, guys, I'm Dougie Bird. This is Stuart Grice, and there's about 10 other people work here. And we're here to try and enhance your fishing a bit better. A lot of you guys are good fishermen, I know that. And we see a lot of your good postings and good pictures come through. But a lot of you are probably still learning and want to enhance your fishing better. We're here to do it. We're not the greatest fishermen, but we're not too bad. So I told the boys we're going to start at Spotty's tonight first, because that's going to be the main focus the next 2 weeks. And it'll be the next actually 2 months, because, or not 2 months, but 5 weeks, because that's when the closure again starts. So you can still chase Spotties during that period. The greatest thing is we didn't have many Spotties last year, but this year they've been a lot better, and they've been actually better just the last few weeks. The size is amazing, like, you know, 1.1 metre Spotties, which you're talking about 8 kilo Spotties. They're as big as Spanish mackerel. So there's a lot of big fish. There's not many little Spotties around. They're all big, and you'll get them. They seriously feel like a Spanish mackerel on the line. They're that hard going. So we're going to start tonight teaching you how to float line for them. Then we're going to go trolling for them. And we won't be talking anything about lures tonight. Sorry. So if you have any questions on lures, you can quickly stick one in if you want to ask. But we've been mainly doing bait fishing on the Spotties. Did anyone come to our mackerel fishing on lures at all seminar? Did you get out and get any mackerel after that?
Yeah, I got a few hits, but I think I was running
Too big lures, okay, yeah. So that's a good thing actually, a good point to bring up. The bait this year has been small, okay? So traditionally, like I'd love to troll a bonito, something like that fella there, which I'll pass around shortly, rigged up, or a gar at the smallest size, you know, something like that size there. And that would be my go-to baits for Spanish mackerel and not Spotty so much. But this year they've been taking little slimies and pilchards, the Spanish. I haven't caught one in a gar yet, which is very unusual. I got nothing on tuna. So, but you put out slimies with Spotties or pilchards, and you catch them Spanish mackerel. So the match the hatch is right. So if you troll on lures, same deal. Instead of trolling 200s or 160s or 180s.
I'll be trying to troll 180s, 200s.
Yeah, that's right. Correct, yeah, 140, 160, 160 massive, would be a big one at the moment, so 120 even, you know, small. Yeah, so just remember that for next time you're going to go lure fishing. Okay, Stuart, so Spotty mackerel fishing. So, as I said, Spotties are good. Spotties are probably, a lot of people say they taste better than Spanish, some people say Spanish tastes better than Spotties, but I like both myself. They both eat well. Spotties, I like catching more than Spanish sometimes because I'm using really light gear. So I'm using like those 3 rods too. I use a lot of those. So that's my like light Spotty rod, but just like a sort of 6 to 8 kilo spin stick, 4,000 size reel. And I think I've got 20 pound braid on there, 20 or 30. And the braid these days is very thin, very light. So that's the sort of rig I'm using. I'll use a bait runner. I do use bait runners as well. That's about as heavy as I'd use. I've probably got a live out in that, hoping to get a Spanish or something decent on it. But something like that size there would be my heavy Spotty outfit. So in that category in between that's fine, guys, okay? I even use my little 2,500 flatty rods
Yeah.
sometimes. They scream when you hook a decent spotty on them. They scream when you get a little spotty on them. So when I'm, my favourite style of spotted mackerel fishing is probably going to be either towing pink squids, which we'll talk about a bit later, or float lining. And float lining's like very productive once you get a burley trail going and once you get it all happening. But you need to understand the situation before you go down there. And in that, what I mean by that is you need to find where the bait is, where the fish are schooled up on the bait, and you need to get down there pretty early. So I'm talking like mermaid or palmy, or out the front here on 12 fathoms or 18 fathom reefs. You won't get many spotties out on the diamond reef. You get the odd one, but very, very rare. So they seem to stay inside of about 30 metres or 35 metres for some reason. You get them out the gravel patch of burley, but that's only about 30 metres as well. Okay, and you got to fish light. So my heaviest braid I'm fishing there is about PE3, which is like 30-pound diameter. But it's in some of the lines, it's very, very thin. That one's actually PE1.5, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I'll just pass this around just to show you how thin braids are getting, because the thinner the braid, the less they see it, the less action in the water, and the less sinker you can use, or use no sinker and it just sits there naturally in the water column. And it's really important to have that availability to you rather than use a thick line or a thick braid that's going to get current and lift up all the time and your bait's twisting in the current. Your bait needs to sit very natural, okay? It's really important. Rig-wise, so that's the rods out there. That's a lot. Leader-wise on that, I'm using about 30-pound fluorocarbon. That's 15, the right one. A 30-pound fluorocarbon. And I might use up to 40-pound if I'm using a bit heavier outfit, 40 or 50 maybe. But 30-pound FC is what I like to use on spotties. I can sort of grab it and gaff it or lift it in the boat if it's a small one. Anything over that, you're going to get a bit more current. It's going to get pulled up a little bit in the current when you're at anchor, and also visually they may see it. So the less they can see, the better they are. They sort of, because you're constantly burling up and they're sort of like just biting at burley. And if they come up to your line that looks fairly natural, they're going to scoff it straight away. But if you get any twisting, like I say, twisting the current or too thick a leader, they might look at it and then they'll swim away. It's very annoying when you see them doing that at the back of the boat. So the rig I use, I like to use a very small swivel. There are many different little small swivels on the market. So let's throw my glasses on, guys. But thanks, Stewie. I like to use here about a size 6. These are about 40-pound strength. I'll pass the rig around once we do one up here. And 30-pound wire is what I like to use. 18 I do use sometimes when they're really finicky and they're like just don't want to know about anything. They're looking at everything, they're swimming away. So I always have some lighter wire on my boat. But I find that anything like the fish at the moment, I wouldn't use it. You'll get bitten off, or they'll break it. I'll break it under your pressure of your drag. So I'll just quickly rig one of these up. That'll be fine, mate. Yeah, thanks. So hook-wise, guys, I like to use 2Os or 3Os, and I like to use little octopus hooks like that size there. I use a range of different brands. Shinto's really good. They're a Japanese wire, and they're made by a well-known company, and they're just extremely sharp. Okay, they're made by BKK. So I'll quickly rig up a couple. You've got 2 there, Stu. Thanks, mate. Yep. And wires here. Maybe cut it off, mate. Nice.
I think the other thing while Dougie's rigging it up, the other thing with using that fluorocarbon as leader, it actually sinks. So normal mono floats, so it will pull your bait up. So having that, say a rod's length of, say 7 foot of leader before you tie on your little rig, it just makes it help. It just helps it kind of sink a lot more natural. So it's just the little stuff, just to make it look that little bit more natural, like your normal burley would be going through.
With those hooks here, is it prefer circles or J's?
It's J's.
Yeah.
So circles is hard to get in the bait, and because I'm using 2 hooks on this rig, you can use 1 hook of course, but 2 hooks, it just seems to sit better, works better, is better. No, don't bother circles, no. Sabotage this too. Not about too short. So I'll just do it grain instead. So guys, I snell on the first one, which you can do with 30-pound wire. Does anyone not know how to snell the hook on? If you don't, we can show you, maybe not tonight, but next time in the shop, it's not so busy. How to do it, it's quite easy, or you can jump online and see how to do it online. And then the bottom hook, I'm just doing like a perfection loop, granny's knot sort of thing first, then through the granny's knot, and then just do a twist and then go back through the granny's knot. My tag's very short, so I can only go through once. It's looking very difficult here, Stewie. Yep. This one's pulling the hook there, buddy. That's it. Done. Most of your better quality scissors will cut light wire really easy, okay? So it looks like that. So it's the first hook's snelled on, and then the second hook's just got a little granny's, a little perfection loop, which is done with the granny's knot. So to do that one, I'll just quickly show you on the board here. That's your wire, and you just do like a granny's loop, like a through once through that loop there. Then that's the eye of your hook, like so. Sorry for the guys over the side there. And then you go through the eye of the hook, then you go back through the granny's loop and do one twist over and go back through. Actually through both is better, but just through the bottom hole's all right. Then what you need to do is you need that loop that you've made, we've gone through the hook back up to the granny's knot loop, you need to try and keep that smaller than a 5-cent piece. Okay, so you hold the loop and sort of pull up on it without letting that loop get bigger. And then get the tag and pull it down. That makes sense, which is tip with pliers. And presto, it looks like that sort of thing on the bottom there, which you'll see as it comes around. So I'm just going to quickly put a bait on just while we can do this. So pillies, okay. That's obviously a nice pilcher, that one there. My guys, pillies are hard to get at the moment, like I mean really hard. So the last sort of bait we got delivered, because we go through bait, we get deliveries every week, goes in and out, in and out, in and out. And the blocks are still WA pillies, but the IQS coming through, some of them coming through as Indo pillies. So if you can get the blocks or get whatever you can WA pillies, if you've got room in the freezer at home, keep the missus happy and wrap them up and put them in there while you can, because we don't know how much longer they're going to last. Apparently in WA there's just no pillies. The water's really cold this year and it's just not happening. So the head section, okay, what I do is I put the bottom hook there through, if you can all see this, or it's from your side, through the eye. I pull it out and then I'll just dig it into the body and just have the tip just exposed, if you can have it just exposed at the top there. And then this top hook here, I normally go from the top down or the bottom up, doesn't matter, and just go through the front like so. Okay, that's it. And it's very hard to pull that off, quite hard to pull that off when they grab it. And the hookup rate's like 100%. Has anyone ever used snell hooks for spotties yet? On wire? It is so good. Like I always used to use singles. I still got most of the fish on singles, but the trouble is they get it down their throat and they pigtail the wire all the time, if that makes sense. The wire gets pigtaily and you can't use that rig again, it's shot. With this rig here, they rarely get past the top of the first hook that's attached to the wire, so your rig's good to use again. Occasionally it gets right down their throat, but generally it doesn't. So the hook's generally in their mouth somewhere, and you've got your rig back to use again. The other thing too is just the hookup rates get much, much better. Okay, I'll just pass this around real quickly. Thank you, Stuart. And then the next one is the tail section. I'll have another rig though.
Yeah, I'll do it.
Is that all right? Well, I'll Stu's doing that rig. I'll keep talking. So guys, when I'm cutting up my burley, I'm making slithers, like if you can see that, like very, very small, like about thickness of say 2 20-cent pieces put together. So they're not big chunks, they're very, very small slithers. Because the pilly's quite big that way, it's enough to get their attention, if that makes sense. So it doesn't need to be big chunks, it just needs to be slithers and you get a lot more out of it. And if I'm anchored and obviously the current's going this way, I'll just be throwing it sort of to the side. I'm throwing my lines out to the side, letting it come down naturally. When I cast my line out, I use no sink and I use rarely a float. So I just use it a natural. As Stewie said, that the fluorocarbon will help it sink to the bottom. I'm not sink down to the bottom, but sink down a little bit. There's always current going south normally, okay? And whilst it's going down, the first probably 20 seconds or maybe even half a minute, I'll leave the bar arm open. If I'm using an overhead, I'll leave it in free spool and just let it fall, just let it go down naturally. If there's any fish in your area, then always throw a bit of burley out first before you throw your lines out. And then once your line's out, you constantly, as you cast out, before you cast out, you're throwing out more burley, okay? So it's burley cast. Cast about, I don't know, maybe 15 seconds after you throw the burley in the water. And at that point, while it's running down in free spool and just loosely going down, that's when you get the fish on. It's like very quick. So burley, cast, free spool, screams off. Okay? That's hopefully how it works, and normally does. Hopefully. If you've got lines out there and you've got a fair bit of current, you may have to do two things. You may have to put like about a half a pea size sinker or maybe a one ball. Put it directly onto the bait. Don't have it up too high because it'll twist and spin. Have it on the bait and they won't really notice it on the bait so much because sinkers are pretty dull in colour and it seems to work best at that point and it stays together the whole time in the current. If you've got no current and your line's sinking straight to the bottom, that's the only time I use a float system. And I see guys that have cool light and like it's all over the joint. You're better off using something like this type of thing here. Let's grab one out and put it on a bit of line for you. I'm going 30 gun leader history. Yeah, it'll be fine, mate. Yeah, thanks. I'll just pass, these are similar size, this is one size smaller, let's pass that around while we're doing this. So guys, this little float here has a weight on one end, so the weighted end goes obviously closest to the bait. You adjust this probably around about a metre up from the bait, or a metre and a half maybe. Enough that you know that's sort of the depth. You can see the mackerel generally swimming around 5 times out of 10, when you're anchored and you've got burley going, you can see the mackerel swimming around. Try and work out what depth they are. They will come up to your bait obviously, but don't have it too shallow. So about a metre and a half. And also when you're casting, you can't cast it until like 3 metres, it just doesn't work, right? Unless you're using a float stopper system. So this one here is attached to your line, top and bottom position. So Stuart's got some line here. So all you do is this is the bait end where Stuart is down here. So you just push it up, clip it on. My eyes aren't the best, Stuart. So yeah. Hold the line there, clip it on. Sorry, right. So you push down on the upper part. That goes on the bottom there, and then the top one, same scenario. Sorry, Stu. I can't see it again, mate. Don't get old, folks. Thank you, Stuart. So, okay, and that'll hold your pilly up in the water column, so it'll stop it from just sinking to the bottom if there's no current. If you want to make it a bit longer, you can slide it up a bit longer. I see a lot of guys down there and on the reef, and I do the same myself too sometimes, especially the overheads. And what they'll do is they'll put the float on maybe 3 or 4 metres up, but they hand strip their line off, okay? So they throw the bait out, they throw the float out, and they just strip a heap of line off and just let it go down the current with the wind. But I'll pass that around, you can see how it works. That attaches to your braid or to your line, whatever you're using, doesn't matter. And there's different sizes. You can get big ones if your eyesight like mine's pretty bad. You can get that size. You're not actually watching the float, guys. Like you can watch the float if you want. You can tell the kids to watch it while you got the kids in the boat. Something to do. But it's just to physically hold the bait from going to the bottom and getting hit by red neds or something like that. Okay, keep it up off the bottom. But you can use that when there's a bit of current too. You just put a little bit of sinker on your above your bait, as I was saying earlier. But if you go too big a sinker, you'll need to go the bigger float. Otherwise, it'll pull the float under, and then you're defeating the whole purpose. Okay. So we've got our rig going around there. A hook size 2030 in the octopus style in the J hook, and a leader wire anything from sort of 18, as I said, it's really finicky, to about 40 pounds. Okay, but 30 is like a really good size. Strong, it's able to still tie, and it's easy and quick, yeah, and thin. Any questions on that at all? Okay, so.
Do you want to do your tail too, Dougie?
Oh, your tail, yeah, sorry, mate. Oh, you already got one there, Stuart. Oh, you're a bit quicker than me, mate. And neat, I noticed. Yeah, nice. Okay, so Stewie's done a little rig up here. This is actually, I tied this one previously earlier, looking at how neat it is. so the hook closest to the swivel will be going through the tail end, and the other one will be going to the side. And you can, I'll just show you something here. You can actually just put it through the side of the flesh and poke it out like so. You have a look when it comes around. And then the last hook, always try and go through the bone of the fish. Use your thumb and use your two fingers either side of the bait to press down to stop that from pulling through and snapping the tail, if that makes sense. And you want it to be so it's not too tight that it's actually bending the fish, right? You want it to be very natural, sitting down.
When you said to run a sinker down to the hook, is it a running sinker?
Yeah, running ball sinker, mate, yeah. Like, I have seen guys use paternoster and then catch mackerel. Like, I don't know how, but they do, and they use wire, like a whole wire rig. And I think it works, but I prefer to use it this way, yeah. Yeah. No, standard lead. You don't want them to bite up high or anything attractive. Especially like pink sinkers are always good for pink's good for attracting the mackerel, but in this situation you don't want it to be that pink, yeah. So I was a bit smelly coming around, you probably get smelly hands, guys, there's sink downstairs. And then I'm just going to quickly show you on the board here how I position my boat and what I do. I got to that earlier but didn't quite finish. So just imagine this is my GPS. It's not that big, I wish it was. And I've marked, say we're down at a Mermaid Reef, and I know this is the shoreline here, and I know the shark nets are sort of here. And I know the reef's sort of, I've got marked position, little fish, one there, a couple way down south here, a couple in close here to the nets, which I really like, on the northern end, the middle, and maybe one at the front here as well. So I've got all these positions, and that's probably from here down to here is about maybe 800 metres to a K, and from the inside to the outside edge is maybe about 400 metres. It's about the size of Mermaid Reef, right? And I've caught lots of fish in all these positions. And what I'll do is I'll put out, which I'll show a bit later, a pink pilly skirt rig. I'll put out like 4 of those or 3 of those. And what I'll do is I'll troll, I'll get down and say, let's say we've got there 4:15 in the morning, right? And I get down there and I get heading down there and I look ahead and there's like 20 red and green lights. And I'm going, crap, these guys are early. So what I'll do, I'll say, okay, I'm going to troll around everyone, have a look around and check my reef out as I'm going around for bait and check it for fish. And if you've ever seen a mackerel on a sounder, say the bottoms, just like this sort of thing here, comes up a little bit, like whatever. And there's bait on here, a fair bit of bait on my pinnacle here, down the side. The mackerel will just be like lines sitting above it, just like so, as you're going slowly over them, okay? That'll a bit like that. Some sounders they do look like an arch or a semi-arch, but generally it's a wiggly line because they're moving around a bit. The slower you go, the more the line becomes longer. If you're doing 6 knots trolling hard bodies, they'll probably just come up as dots like that. But if you're doing 1.5 knots trolling baits, they'll come up longer, okay? So I'm trolling around. I'll start my track. Please run a track on your GPS every time, guys. It's really important. You should have so many tracks on your GPS, it's a pain in the backside, you can't see where your marks are. That's how many tracks you should have, okay? Because each track gives you some idea what you did last time. So I'm going to go to this inside mark first. I rocked up, there's all boats sitting everywhere over the joint here. I rock up this spot here and I'll just go over it and I'll just check out the situation for this. And if it looks really good like that and there's bait there, and I may get a hit, I may not. If I don't get a hit, I'll keep working my way. I'm giving this away. This is exactly what I do on Mermaid Reef. How many guys here fish Mermaid Reef? Good, only a couple of you. Okay. So, and then I'll go up to this one here and I'll come back around like that. Okay. And I'll check this out and see if it looks like that. There's not much there. I won't worry about it. Then I'll do a run out the wide here and I'll go over this mark here and I'll check it out again. And sometimes there's good fish out on that mark there, wider. And then what I'll do, I'll keep going down here. I might go through this one and then come back out here and come back down again. This time I'll do a run up to this one here. If I can get through the boats, because it's always hard to get to the middle mark because there's always too many boats in the way. You can get around them, but you can't get on them, through them. But if I can, I'll do that. Otherwise, if I can't get through them that way, I'll go down here again, and then I'll come back through that way, whichever way I can get through, and come back around again. And if that mark's really good, and if there's boats there, say positioned, one's here, this one here's 50 metres that way, 40 metres that way, and one's 30 metres that way. If I reckon I can get my anchor down without peeing that guy off, get as close as I can before I drop my anchor, he's going to yell at me or not say anything. I will do that. And then I'll sit back right on my mark here. And I know, as long as I can control the fish, because if you've got light line, you've got to remember they will run 50 or 60 or 80 metres out, but you get a lot more fish. But you've got to put up with not allowing it to get into these guys' lines, right? It's got to have a bit of ethics about fishing, but if that's the honey hole, it's worth the risk getting into it, sort of thing. Okay. But otherwise, I've noticed fish here. That's too hard. The boats are too close. I've had a pass over. It looked really good. Maybe I'll wait for these guys to disappear. So I'll go back to my original spot here, and I'm going to anchor up here. So if I haven't got anything on the troll, I will pull my lines in and then get ready to anchor. If I've got fish trolling those pink skirts, there's no way I'm going to anchor up. I'm going to keep trolling around and get more and more and more. That's the way I'll do it. And as soon as they go up the chew that way, or I see like flotilla of boats coming, I want to get to my spot before someone else does, I'll sacrifice and anchor up. That's the only time I'll anchor up and leave fish. I don't like to leave fish no matter what I'm doing, what style it is. I'll continue doing it until I have no other option but to change, okay? So I'll come back to here, I see all these boats coming, I go, oh my God. So I'll quickly pull my lines up, I'll burn back up the inside here, come back to here, and I just need to quickly know which way the wind's going. I've sort of got some idea from trawling around which way the wind that's going, but I don't know how my drift's going to be. So what I'll do is I'll just drift for like maybe 1 minute, just and zoom right in on my GPS to maybe 50 metres or 100 metres, and I can see exactly which way I'm going. I'm going from, there might be a little bit of wind from the northwest, and I'm sort of going a little bit northwest, but actually going more south. So then I know, okay, the current's ripping harder than the wind. So therefore, I need to probably go up a bit to drop my anchor. So I drop it on the spot, a bit over this side here. I think I'm going to go northwest into it. I won't. What'll happen is I'll drop it there and I'll end up down the inside of it because the current's strong in the wind, and I'll miss it. So I'll need to come up a bit, go in a tiny little bit to allow the northwest, and drop my line, my anchor out, and press start there. And it's really important when you drop an anchor out that you can't just like throw it out. I know you're anxious to get your line out, and I am too, but you can't just throw it out and then go back down the back of the boat and get your gear ready and throw it out, right? Someone needs to be on the helm. You need to keep the boat into the wind, especially if it's a little bit windy, and you need to just keep edging the boat forward so it's slack in the line, in your anchor, to hook into the bottom, okay? A lot of you probably know that, but it's really important for those who don't. And then once you've got it in and it's tight, make sure you got enough line out. Don't have it too tight like that straight down, because once you get a bit of a swell or a big boat goes past, there's a bit of extra wave, it'll just pop off. It needs to be on a bit of an angle out to the front.
Do you need a reef anchor down there, mate?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've used all types down there, reef, sand, and the ones, the prongs that fold out, sort of thing. They all work. The sand anchor is good if there's not much swell, but if it's swell, it's not very good. The reef anchor is good as long as it's not too windy, because some of it bends out easy. I suggest, like with boats, if you're using, say, an 8mm rope, most of you probably got, if you've got smaller boats using 8mm rope, your reef anchor should be about 8mm prong, okay? Using 10mm rope, 10mm prong, 12mm, 12mm prong. If you stick with that method, it's pretty well going to stay fixed. If you've got a little tinny, maybe a 4 metre or 4.2, you might use 6mm rope, and 6mm prong's all right. But don't put too big. If you put like a 10mm prong on 6mm rope, the rope will break trying to get it off. It won't bend out, and you lose the chain anchor. Does that all make sense, guys? So once I'm anchored there, now, I'm going to really pepper my baits in those 4 positions there. These ones here are going to be closer, and these ones are going to be cast further. So they come back, they'll end up down the back of the boat, the current. These ones will be closer, they're out further. So the 2 I cast out to the side of it are the longer cast, and I leave it in free spool a bit longer, to come off a bit more. If you're using colour lines, you've got some idea how far out it is. If these ones at the back here, like I probably might have them out 20 metres backs. The other guys maybe 30 or 40. Okay? And my burley, as I said, it's going pretty fast that way. I'm going to be casting it up front of the boat, throwing it up front of the boat, and just the odd bit to the back when I throw my line out. That's all. But if you throw it all at the back, it's going to be too far gone before your baits. These guys here won't get a mention. These guys might, but they won't. So it's all relative to how fast it's sinking.
Is there ever a point where the current gets too strong and it's not worth leveling?
You just put the sinkers on. They'll still bite. They'll still be there. And I find a lot of times there's a bit of current, they bite harder.
Yeah.
Because they're working hard in the current. They're hungry. You know.
You're always strong.
But as long as it's not
you never throw forward just to get it down. So
but by lines, yeah, 100%. So if, as I said, I try not to use sinkers.
Yeah.
So these guys here, if the current's going that hard, the ones on the side here, I'll be casting those with like very small sinker if it's ripping hard, or no sinker, as far up as I can go that way.
Yep.
Yeah, and the other guys, I'll have a sinker on them, the short ones just at the back. Yeah. And they'll eventually get their way down. And a lot of times they'll get hit somewhere in this area here, you know. Yeah, other thing I'll be doing too, like you gotta, it's a bit hard to be throwing up current with your lines, but I'll be spinning metals, 100%, whilst you're doing other lines as well. It's busy, okay. When you get a mackerel on, it's always a tricky one with the oh sorry Stewie, with the, it's all right with the bait runners. So bait runners are great because you can let them run. So you just pull the lever back and it's in free spool. Okay, so prior to that your drag's preset, so whatever tension you want on the drag, right? And then you cast it out, pull the lever back, and you just flip the bar open if you want to let it run out a bit more down, like I was saying, or you can loosen that right off at the back, and the current will pull it out. It's constantly slow, pull it out. You'll hear it creaking out, and then when the fish hits it, it'll scream off a lot faster. As it's screaming off, you just turn the handle and it locks the drag back into place and it's hooked, okay? When you're using, sorry, let's choose the other one there, mate. When you're using like the spin outfit like this here, it's a combination of, you get really good at knowing where your drag is because you've got to constantly take it off, turn and put it back on again. So what I'll do is I set my drag sort of when I'm fishing very, very light, but before I do that, and I've just had a fish on it, it's locked back up again. So I'm about to cast it out, I have to loosen my drag back off again after I caught the fish. I cast it out and then I leave it running loose, and then when I'm in the position where I think it's about right, I'll click it over. But as I said, you've got to loosen it right off so it can run off without feeling any pressure. It'll scream off 100 miles an hour. You've got to pick it up and tighten it up at the point that you know it's not going to snap the line. As I said, you get used to knowing where your drag is. Okay, it might be 2 turns or 3 turns. You'll need to work that out and quickly do that up. But don't do it up too tight because you'll break your line. And when you get near the boat, if you go under the boat, which they do quite often, or up towards the front of the boat, you'll snap your line, or it just needs to be able to take it without breaking your rod or breaking the line. So before each time you cast it out, loosen it right off again. But it's a bit painful. That's why the bait runners are so easy. It's just you don't do anything. It's preset. You've got an overhead. If you've got a lever drag, that's easy. You can just drop the lever drag right back to your free spool, or just put your ratchet on, and when the fish screams off, you just push the lever up. So it's easy, a bit like a bait runner. If you've got star drag, it's the same scenario. You've got to loosen it off, so that it run off, and you can't have it set too tight. A bit like, not like jewelry fishing or something like that. You've got to let them take it, and then tighten it up once you hook it. Okay. They generally are hooked. You don't really need to hook a spotted mackerel. They're already hooked. They've already eaten the line down, and even just that little bit of tension on your reel will set those really sharp hooks.
How long do you let them run?
Oh, not at all. Oh, not enough to tighten the reel up.
Yeah,
That's it. Yeah. If you go too long, it's just too many sharks. There's too many sharks at the moment. You get sharked. And that's the trouble with the light line is you take a bit long to get them in, but at the same time, if you put heavy line on and winch them in, the fish stresses and the shark comes even quicker. They understand the hurt of a fish. Where light line, they can sort of do the swimming and take off and come back and eventually get them in, but it takes longer, so you have more chance of the shark finding them. It's like that. Get the buggers in. Okay. Gaffing a fish. Okay, so most mackerel, spotted and Spanish, especially spotted, anything under about maybe 4 kilos, I'll just lift it in the boat and just get it outside the boat, do a wrap on the 30 pound and just lift it in the boat, okay? If they want to take off, you have to let go straight away because you'll break the 30 pound. Anything over about, say, 75, 80 centimetres, it might be about 4 kilo or 5 kilo, a gaff. Just make sure your gaff hook's not too big in this area here, and make sure it's thin and make sure it's sharp. And it's just the same deal. Grab the leader and come in behind the head and just lift it straight in the boat. Watch their teeth, they're very sharp. Dong them on the head if you want, or just put them straight into the esky. We use an ice bag like that one there, and just put them straight in the bag, and then just go to sleep with the ice. Yeah. Have those little rigs are passed around. If you're going to do the double rig or single, doesn't matter.
So do you blade or Dougie?
I do. I cut the throat. Yeah, I just walk up. Once I've got my lines back in the water, I know they're probably half dead by that time, but I walk up and cut their throats. Yeah, they'll still spurt blood out. We do sell little hook rigs pre-made. I just pass these around. These are single hook rigs, but you need to have guys. If I know the spotties are on, I would want to have like 15 or 20 rigs pre-made, ready to go for the morning. So just got to spend time make up rigs at home when you get a chance.
Do you run them on a down rigger or just straight up?
Straight up and down. Yeah. If the current's ripping, I'd probably put a live and down rigger, maybe I wouldn't worry about pillies, I don't think. Too much muck.
Like towing with those.
Oh, towing. Towing, yeah, 100%. Yeah, especially the liveys, yeah. But and just general fishing, no. Is there any questions on that side of the mackerel? No? All good? Okay, go get them. Spots to go. This is why we got the spotted the mackerel thing on the spotted mackerel thing on now. Anything you want to add to it, Stewie?
No, I think that's about it. I think the biggest thing that Dougie did say that I definitely believe in is that fish really light. You just need a braid that does cut through water and doesn't pick up too much of that current as it's going, and you're fishing with a belly in your line and it'll pull your baits up. But apart from that, I think that's about it, Dougie.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, fish as light as you can and understand the current and fish to the current. So it's got to be so natural in the water, your bait. That's guys that see their lines tight like that, sometimes I see them spinning on the surface, they ain't going to catch nothing. It needs to be down there a little bit, and it needs to be very humble and loose, just sitting there. Just like your burley is when you cut your burley up. It's just sitting there, just floating around. They just go along and eat it.
Are you constantly bringing those baits in?
I am, yeah. So if I see them rise at all, then that's the first thing I just put a little, I have all like baby sinkers all the way through. I just change the suit. You just got to cut the swivel, above the swivel and change it if you want to do it that way. You can, I do have some on rigs, but not many. I haven't actually, I try not to use sinkers, how's that sound? Very rarely use sinkers. I have some made up in size 0, 0 to about a 1, which is 3 sizes on the bait. I have some that when they're biting hard but the current might just come in for some reason, I will run it above the swivel. I try not to because I don't like doing that, but because it twists the line up a bit. Because sometimes the sinker overtakes the bait and it gets caught up, does that make sense, in the current? That's why it's better to have the sinker at the butt.
Letting them just sit there until you either see them coming up, or are you just, is it more so having them actually drifting back?
The drifting back's when you get, like I say, that's when you get most of the hits, when they're on. But if...
I haven't done that style yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if I will on the ski or not. But
Yep, you can do it on the ski. Can you anchor up on the ski? Yeah. So I just to be doing the same way as we talked about.
let it drift back through till it's sort of in the zone.
Yeah, that's right.
Past the zone,
Yeah.
and just bring it in.
Yeah, if you get...
Go again.
I like fishing mermaid because it's not too much current affected down there. Southport does a little bit. Palmy does sometimes too. Up the pins, no, there's not much current there.
Not much.
Not in
but-
close. Out a bit it is, but not in close. So in those situations, as I said, I'd have maybe two double zeros, 2 zeros, 2 1s pre-made sinker on the hook, but I rarely use them. And then just have some spare sinkers to put above your swivel if it gets that scenario where you're getting bitten off or you get hectic hat times, you just quickly do that in the current. But as I was saying earlier, if the current's running, sometimes they really bite. Yeah. When the spotties come on, guys, you'll see them. They'll just they're massive schools, like a lot bigger than the Spanish, obviously in school size. And sometimes they'll come to the top, and they'll be a football field size. And if you've ever been down at Mermaid or Palmy, and there's like 50, 80, 100 boats down there, they swim around a big circle, and you'll see like those 10 guys, the reels all take off, and those 10 guys, and they're eventually going to get to you, and you'll get a hit at them. But if your burley trail is really good, you can hold quite a fair few at your burley trail. So the guy with the most burley wins, I believe, down in those places, you know. So whatever old pillage you got, again, if you can keep the wife happy and keep them in the freezer, keep them in the freezer, dice them all up if you're going to dice them all up. But we find it's better to dice them on the day rather than chop them up and freeze them. It's very hard to defrost. It doesn't work, yeah, it doesn't work, yeah. So do it on the day. Refreeze pillies, but do it on the day, cut them up. Just those GPS marks, guys, where it says you'll get spotties, occasional spotties at the jumping pin ones, but they're more Spanish mackerel. But the Easter Seaway area, you'll get spotties at all those first 4 marks, but not the last 2. They'll be more Spanish mackerel. Mermaid reefs there, of course, and those 2 marks there are only about probably 150 metres apart, 300 metres apart maybe. They're just a north and south mark. The gravel patch area, that mark there is about nearly 800 or a K apart. That's one end, northern end and southern end. And Palm Beach Reef area, those marks there are about 500 metres apart as well. North and south area and a little bit of east and west, but more north and south with the lump in the middle. And Tweed Heads is more Spanish mackerel. Don't get many spotties down at Tweed. You get them down at Windara Banks. How many guys fish down sort of Brunswick or Tweed Way from here? Yeah, so you get them down at Windara. Obviously you get them way down south at Woody Head and those places, but you don't get many spotted mackerel off Tweed. I don't know why. Strange. Caught a few at the D cell many years ago, which is only south of Palmy. That was when it was in the water. But at Tweed, I'd beg to say, I don't think I've ever caught one of Tweed. Caught heaps of Spanish. But yeah, Palmy, go to Palmy, yeah. It's weird how it works, but that's how it works. They sort of bypass, they go from Palmy, put their blinkers on, then rock up at Windara Banks, like 30, 40 k's south. Anyhow. Okay guys, that's it on the spotties. So any questions on the bait fishing on the float line of the spotties? You guys all good? Okay.
Just wondering.
Yes.
What speed you troll?
Okay, troll going to now, right now. Very slow. Very, very slow. Very slow. So
These north and south marks, like, do they work technically between as well?
Yes, 100%. So I've given you, I have a lot of marks in between, but I'll give you a starting point either end, and just got to look around between it.
And one more question.
Yes.
Like, is it worth following the birds as well?
Yeah, 100%. So I always have a rod like this type of thing here rigged up with a 2.5 to 4,000 size, 4,000 or 5,000 even, 20, 30 pound braid and about a 40 gram metal on it. And as soon as I see any birds or any activity on the top, so the tuna will be the ones that jump and the spotties zip. They zip, like you see the zip through the water, they're the spotties. And just, you don't miss, mate. You use metals, yeah, 40 gram metals, the casting. So that's something we don't talk about tonight so much, but definitely you've got to have one rod set up in the boat ready to go all the time. And as I said, when you're at anchor and you're doing the float lining, I'm constantly casting my burley trail. A lot of guys recently, I don't know if you guys have tried it yet, but and Stuart and I have seen it happen down there. A lot of guys now jig their burley trail. So running a bit of wire off and wire assist off their jigs, and just drop it to the bottom and just crank it back up again. And sometimes just zip it back up. And they smash it, like smash it. So it's something I haven't got into big yet. I've done a bit of jigging for Spanish mackerel, not spotty so much. But I obviously got to use a slow pitch rod. But
Yeah.
yeah.
With the metal slug as well.
Yeah, metal slug. Yeah, you can do it with metal slug, but they use more. Yeah, they're using like a 60 gram metal with the wire assist off the top, and a bit of wire above it. Yeah, because they'll inhale it, especially on the fall. Yeah.
You're on a wire on your slugs when you cast it?
I don't. So that's a good question too. I use it on my base, but I take the chance. You will not get bitten off when you're winding, when you wind, but when you pause or on the cast out and let it sink, 100% you get bitten off. Not all the time, but most times. Good for us. Not good when I'm fishing or we're fishing. But sometimes when it's just a madhouse. When you see them erupting and it's all happening, birds are diving, and hope there's only one or two other boats there with you. And it's the size of a football field and you cast into there, you're like, when they're really on, you don't need to let it fall. You just straight away wind, and that's how you don't get bitten off. But when they're sort of zipping here and they disappear and they zip over there, you have to let it fall to bring it back up through them, if that makes sense. Yeah. And you'll cast out and you let it sink, and then you'll start winding. There's nothing there. It's already gone. It's all over. Yeah, so that's the painful part.
Yeah, you don't feel the bite off or anything.
Yeah.
It's very quick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll just use 30 pound fluoro for it.
Yeah.
They bite through 30 the same as they bite through 50, so
Yeah.
it doesn't really matter.
I did bring it because I thought I'd be asked that question tonight. There is this little. You could probably use this for float lining too, by the way, guys. Float fishing, but I'll pass these around. These are a new item from Helco. They're about $12 a packet. They're a great thing for what you're talking about, mate. So they're a little tiny wide tray, single strand, which is hard to bite through, and it's small enough for them not to notice it. If that makes sense. Yeah. Good to see something like that out. We'd make it, but don't get time to make it. Okay, getting to the trolling part. So, okay, by far the most popular rig we sell for trawling for spotties is the squid skirt rig. We sell probably pink, lumo and white in nearly similar numbers. A couple of years ago we ran out of pink skirts, we started using white skirts because that's all we had, and then we got pink skirts back in. We stopped making the white ones. Everyone wanted white ones because they said all the white ones were really good, so now we do pink and white. And then we did the same with lumo last year and the same will happen again. So then we do pink, lumo and white. So the rig, some rigs have half of weight on them, some have a full weight. They both work really well, okay? One just gets down a tiny bit deep in the other one, but sometimes they want it up near the top. Just depends on the day. The trace is very short. You guys can make these yourself. We have all the stuff here, okay? So it's just, and I think in that bag you've got the hooks to gang up. You've got wire, which is not 7-strand, but you can use that wire for rigging up as well, above the swivel, above the hook, sorry. And you've got, I don't know if there's skirts in there too. So recently, we've never been able to get them, but now we can get them. These sort of skirts, the Ozuri skirts, they're made in Japan, this type here. And Stu and I, when we got them in recently, we took some out to try because they're a longer head than normal. So the characteristic of the swim action is a bit different to the normal squid skirt. And we smashed it on. They did really well. They actually outfished some other skirts, the normal skirts we had. So you've got those in your bag, so give them a crack, guys. Just to make up your own skirts, okay? The other thing we did too was, I don't have this in your bag though, but these little bobble things here, we put those on the front just to try see how to go at a slow trial. Obviously they work really good at high speed, but at slow speed, and again, they outfished the skirts that didn't have the skirts this on it. So,
Did you find your control a little bit?
yeah, we actually did the thing. We sped up to
Yeah.
8 knots, I think it was, and the baits are swimming beautifully. Yeah, it was amazing.
Because I saw you using that, I wondered if you could run it a bit quicker.
Yeah, you can, yeah.
Just trying to get
So you can run that,
a bit protection.
you could run your bait with that with your hard bodies, but run it right at the back at 6 or 7 knots. I'll pass that around too. They work out about $5 or $6 each because they're about.
What do you call that, Dougie?
Well, we haven't got a name for it yet. What did Pakula call them?
I think they're a Venturi head, but
Venturi
yeah.
head, yeah.
Come on, name it.
So the faster that you troll it, but the further up it's going to come.
Stewie's bobble.
Call them no legs. No legs.
No legs. That's it, yeah. And no torso. Sorry, Stu. Sorry.
He runs them in his fish prints.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, that's right. Correct. Yep. No, they're very good. Sorry, was there another question down here, guys, at all before? No?
No, I was just saying, you're running those with the skirts as well? or not?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, 100%. I'm in front of the skirt. So the skirt sits up inside it.
Yeah.
Yep. No, they seem to be good. We've been selling quite a few, but obviously we've only had them for 2 weeks, but the weather hasn't really been the right time. Plus, you can't sort of troll for mackerel at the moment, so you can, but spotties. Yeah. Okay, so getting back to these original rigs here. So I was going to rig up a pilly now, how it works. So I'm using single strand wire on this one. We use the wire up so it goes through the nose cone, which wasn't put on this rig here by any chance. So we'll grab one out. There it is, there's two. Oh, yeah. Actually, I think you just probably slide it over, mate. If you cut that a bit high, a bit bigger on the top there, maybe. Yeah, just slide it over the. That's it. Sorry, guys, just do a bit of operation here. That's it. Fantastic. So when you trolling pillies, try and get a decent sized pilly. Don't use little ones so much. They'll still work, but bigger's better. I put the hooks in the belly side, guys, not the top side, not the side, okay? Thanks, Stuart. And you just measure it out. I know you can't see down the back, but if you get the gist of it, I'll draw it on the board in a sec. But measure it out so your hook, the last hook starts where the wire is going to go through, just in front of his eyes, okay? Just right here in front of his eyes, sort of thing. If that makes sense. The wire's going to come up through here. So that's there. I look at it. Okay, my first hook's going to be right in the end of the tail. So first hook in. Try not to break the skin, as I said earlier. Second hook in. Third hook in. When you pivot around, because they're not offset, they'll sort of go straight down. They don't kick out to the side. Then wire up through the front here. Hold the head down as you push it up, otherwise you'll snap his gills, and you don't want to snap his gills, okay? And that just sits under. So I've got the wire, if you can, I know you can't see down the back there, but you've got good eyes. It's sticking out just in front of his eyes, okay? And then I get this cone, and the cone goes down, and it starts over, and you use that pin as the guide to start the cone off. You've got cones in your bags there too, I think. Ouch. Be careful not to stab yourself. And then pull the skirt down over the top of that cone. And if you wanted to, you could, if you go to the next stage with the Stewie head, you just, it'll go over the top of that. And that's it.
So the big thing with the squid skirt as well, it's a bit of added attractant, but it actually diverts a lot of water. The front of a nose cone is hollow, it's got a hole in it. And if you're just trolling that on its own, it can, obviously the pilly's mouth hole is going to be a little bit open. I'll fill up with water and they'll blow out, so all the guts will blow out and stuff like that.
That's
so
right, yeah.
Kind of just makes it a bit more streamlined.
Mm.
If the guts blown out, there's a running theory that once the guts blow out, the Spotty will take them. Do you reckon that's a bit of a myth? Or?
I think
No,
it's just
it's
that they
true.
don't swim as good as
Yeah,
well.
get rid of it.
Yeah.
Put a new bait on.
Do you find that a lot of the guys I fish with will rig them in the back rather than the belly? There's something
Yeah.
happening. Do you feel like you
I find you put them in the back, they spin more.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it makes them spin more. I've done all the different things. Try it yourselves. The belly's softer, but it definitely swims better. Yeah. I think it's just the way it's shaped to the water. That way is better than that way, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Do you make sure you get that wire centered as well, or is there a lot of that if it's out of the video?
So the wire, when you push it up, you try and push it up as centre as you can. So just for the picture on the board here, here's my mate's pens again he gave me. So, just an ugly looking pilchard. He's got a nose like mine. Yeah, like a whale, isn't it? A little bit of stuff on the top here. So the hooks, you measure it out so the wire is going to stick up through this part here, okay? Just in front of his eyes. So that's where my wire's going to go. You don't actually put it through yet, you just measure it out where the first hook's going to start. So the first hook's going to go in here. Oh, sorry, a bit longer than that. And then the second hook's going to go in here. Sorry. There is a bit of a bend on the front of the hooks normally. And then your third hook's going to go in here. And then the lead's sitting here. And you've got your haywire twist, that's the haywire there. And then the cone comes down here. And it's obviously like that. And you just start it off on there. And then that eventually becomes over his head like that. And it looks like that sort of thing. And that wire's sticking up there. Does that make sense? And now trawling it, the gentleman asked how fast do you trawl it? I trawl it like, if I'm trawling for mackerel, I might go a little bit faster. I might trawl for Spanish mackerel, sorry, at about 2 to 3 knots. But for spotties, I like to go as slow as my boat can go, even in neutral a lot of the time. So getting back to before, when I was going from A to B to those marks on the GPS before, as I come over and I see that school of bait and I see mackerel sitting there, and they're down, so I'm in around 18 metres deep and they're down about 10 metres. Then I know my bait's settling down about 1 metre when I'm trawling, or 2 metres maybe. I'll stop just as soon as I come up to that bit of bait and I see the first mackerel, because my momentum's going to keep going forward, right? My bait's only about 30 or 40 metres behind me, or 50 metres. I'll stop, pull the neutral, and let my line sink down as it's coming up over that bait. And then I'll see the lines go down like that. The boat sort of start to go that way because of the wind or whatever it might be. And I'll just click it back into gear really slowly and pull the baits back up through that fish. And like if they're there, they're going to bite it. They're going to hit it. Okay. The other thing I try to do, and that's why you see me do those sharp turns on those marks. As I said, it's exactly my trial run. When I've got my marks laid out, when I try and make a point of going down to the mark and then turning, so my line actually drops down as I turn and pulls back up through the school of fish. And again, you get so many hits. So way more than 50% on the turns on your reef marks.
How many lines are you trolling?
4. 4. So don't go 5. It's too hard. And if you're on your own, maximum 3 maybe.
Yeah.
If you're on a jet ski, maybe 2.
You use an outrigging?
No, not on that. I'm not. I find outriggers are good for lures, but for bait of skirts mainly only, or live baiting if you're just drifting. So, but yeah, you don't need to. Don't need to.
And with your 4, are you trolling those at the same length out, or are you, what?
So I put my 2 long ones out first. So I'll probably put back the longest one at about, if there's not too much boat traffic, and I can sort of get in amongst the boats, not too bad. I might even go back 60 or 80 metres back on the longest one.
And the longest one's out the side or in the middle?
On the side.
On the side.
Yeah. So my side might be 60 or 80 metres back. The next one about 50, then 40, then 30 sort of thing. Yeah. But some days we've been down there trolling for spotties and they're really finicky. I find those days sometimes when it's cloudy. So I need to, hopefully I can get around the spots, but I'll drop them back like 100 metres. 100, 80 or 90, 80, 70, you know. They're a long way back. Sorry?
Mackerels get boat shy?
They get a bit boat shy and I'll go down a bit sometimes, but when they're hungry, they don't care. They don't care. They just keep biting. Spotted mackerel are one of those things you can bag out so quick. You only allowed 5. Back in the day, we used to get a lot more than that, but I won't go there. But when they're on, trust me. Yeah, they're on. And they're good size.
Yeah, they're on today, not on tomorrow.
Yeah, that's true too. That is so true too. I think it's to do with the current. If you get anything up, we call it uphill current, means running north. It's very hard to get fish. The water goes dirty. They just don't want to know about it. The water goes cold as well. When the current's going from north to south, it's always warm. And if you've got a southeasterly wind, they seem to bite really well. The trouble is the boat's against the current, so your line's always the other way around, if that makes sense. And the other problem is if you have any 1 or 2 days of northerly, you get them on the northerly the first day, but if you've got 2 days or more, it's quite often they just don't want to bite. The water gets dirty again, it goes cold. They just switch off. Yep. Okay, any questions on the pilly rigs at all? So slimy mackerel, little slimy, exactly the same way, guys, identical. You troll them out long way, that's probably about all I need to tell you.
Yakkers as well?
Yakkers are good as well, yep.
Yeah, little gar. You just same scenario, just break the beak off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
smaller size.
Yeah.
Line wise, you can trawl with your spin rods, but I wouldn't trawl under 30-pound braid. It's a different scenario when you're at anchor and they're hitting it at just their pace, but when you've got momentum going one way and going the other, it's enhanced, so it'll snap 30-pound braid. 50-pound braid's okay, 40 pounds even okay.
How often are you topping up the burley?
When I'm trawling, not at all, but when I'm at anchor, mate, it's a good question actually, I didn't mention it before. Probably every 2 to 3 minutes, so lots. Constantly.
Just sort of half a handful either side?
Yeah, mate, you're not too much. You're not even half a handful, just maybe 8 or 10 pieces, which is probably half a pilly. Both sides, or at the front, every 2 minutes or 3 minutes. Enough time that if I get the fish happening, all your lines will go at once. It's mayhem. So you might have a 15-minute break, and because you've got to get all those fish in, right? And then you get rebaited, and then you cast out, and you throw a bit of burley out as well prior, but they're gone because they've moved on to the guy at the back that's still chucking his burley out. They'll come back to you, but unless you've got a couple of guys in the boat and you can get the fish in and keep the burley going. So every now and then, even if I've got a fish on the floor and I'm hanging on the fish, pulling on this rod, I was going to chuck it in the water, a bit of wild hand cast of burley just to try and keep them there, you know. Yeah, they'll come around their mates too, and you sort of get them a little bit excited, but you need to keep them activated because once you get them, they'll stay. Yeah, as I said earlier, if you can keep them at the back of the boat, you'll do well.
What do you do with your drag when you're trolling?
Yeah, so good question. I've got it set fairly firm, mate. Yep, so grab it and pull it off. But no, I'm not going to break my line. Yep, because if you get a hit and it's like, and it's screaming out, and it's only a little fish, it's way too light and you're probably going to maybe losing. But yeah, you just want to set those hooks. Most of those hooks are really sharp. So the ones you got in the bags, guys, Our Korean hooks are really good quality ones. So they're actually, we use a pair of side cutters, like little side cutters, right? And just snip them in the corner. Have we got any side cutters here, Stu?
No, I don't. But
Got the hooks here somewhere, right here. Do you want to, I'll ask Liam to get some side cutters.
what do we use those
Oh, yep. These are parrot cutters, but we'll try and have a go at cracking these. But so all you do, actually I'll grab the 5-0s. Thanks, Stuart.
Oh, so just open.
I'll give these a crack. So guys, all you do is you just pinch it in the corner of the eye. Because as you all know, chemically sharpened hooks, they break easy, okay? They break under pressure easy. And you get the odd one, so always hold it away from you or your mate's eyes when you're doing it. But just pinch it and pull on it at the same time and leverage it out, that makes sense? Just enough to get the eye in. You need side cutters, these aren't side cutters, but I think that might be nearly enough, maybe. And then when you put the next hook in, put it in like that and then spin it around like that and then push down on it, just like that, and it pops in, okay? Without breaking it, we'll just do another one just to make sure. So just pull on it, just to open up just enough to get the hook in. So pop it in, oh sorry, new glasses, pop it around, push up on the back side here, up. Oops. Try the other way. Okay, a bit more, there we go. And that's it, and then just close it back up with a pair of pliers. These ones will be strong enough, but we'll give them a crack. When you close them up, be careful not to get that hook in your hand and roll them forward. These pliers aren't going to be strong enough, I don't think. Anyhow, we've got plenty of supplies downstairs. But you just got to roll the hook forward. So when you close it up, roll it that way as you're closing it. Does that make sense? So roll the hook forward.
Are you doing the shank a little?
Yeah, a little bend. Yeah, I'm going to show you how to do that in a minute as well. Actually, if you've got a pair of these, that's even better because they got the hook opener on them. Okay. So they've got a little adjustment to open the eyes up of the hooks. For those of you who tailor fish, you know what I'm talking about.
So you can buy open-eyed hooks as well for ganging. The problem is they're all offset, so they don't really do a straight
It's got to be straight.
open-eyed hook.
That's what these.
So that's why we're going to the effort to do this. But you can use the other ones and straighten them, but they're just never really the same. They're never straight.
So these particular pliers here have a two different size hole adjustment punch things, and this adjusts how far down they can leverage when you close them, open up the eyes, sorry. And then it has a little thing in here that you put the hook into to roll it forward, which I can do right now. You just roll it forward. It's good for getting hooks out too, by the way, because they're long. So that's it. And then what we do then is we just grab down the shank, maybe about that far down, if that makes sense. And then just push down with your hand like that on the back and hold onto the ply at the same time. And just slightly bend the hook eye, if that makes sense. Just do it to the bottom two hooks and that'll sit further up inside the bait as well. Just a little bit. Pass these around.
And
So-
that's just sit it up inside the bait, is it?
Yeah, it sits further up inside and works better. They're very sharp. That's what I'm getting at. Those hooks are really good. So you've got three sizes. You've got 5/0s, 6/0 and 7/0. So the 5/0 obviously for the pillies, the 6/0 for small gar and slimies, and the 7/0s for your bigger gar or your saris. Obviously too small for the bonito, but definitely for everything else is right. Okay, we've got to get on the Spanish mackerel. Any other questions on that at all, guys? Okay, on the spotties, everyone's good? Cool. Okay. Anything else you want to add, Stu?
No, that's about it. Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. Cool. Okay, Spanish mackerel. So, Spanish mackerel, we do three things. We obviously troll hard bodies and stuff, but for bait size wise, we troll medium baits, which I talked about earlier, which is what they're taking this year, like slimies and small gar and yakkers and big pillies. And then we trawl bigger baits like the bonitos and stuff, Taylor. And we also trawl live baits, so live baiting as well. I'll start at the live bait first. And the rig we use on the live bait is Stu's got one right here. So you guys have got trebles in your bag as well, which is the same size we use for the live bait rig. So this one is where you use that wire that's in your bag as well, guys, because it doesn't have the pin stick up on it. You need single strand for the previous rigs we talked about. So it's snelled onto the hook at the start there, okay? So this hook here is going to go into its mouth or through its nose, that hook there. And the bottom hook here, sometimes you'll run 2 trebles off, you might run another one off the eye of the hook and run it a bit longer. So this one here might sit up in the gut area, and then the next one might sit at the top or sit in its side and have two trebles, but generally one's enough, but two's better, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the size of your bait as well. Like if
Yeah.
you're just using real little yakkers or a little slimy, you probably only need one, but
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
pin the treble with the bait or let it
pin it. Yeah, just one prong.
One prong, yeah. Keep your trace real short too, guys, and make sure you're using a half decent swivel. It's about a size 4, I think, 4 or 5, around 30 kilos. So I'll put a pilly on here, but imagine this is a little slimy, okay? This one's got a cracked gut in it, so excuse that. But so some guys put the treble in the side and have it hanging out the side, to hang out the side. I generally stick it in the sort of just past the backside area and just sit it like so. And then this fellow here, make sure that line on the side's got to be really loose because they're going to swim, right? And if it's tight, they'll curl and they'll die. Even trawling, they'll die. So yeah, probably you can go top or bottom, it's up to you guys. They still will open their mouth with both mouths pinned. I said before, don't break the gills, I just did. Sorry guys, it doesn't happen when they're live. But they'll still open their mouth on the shank of the hook, okay? But yeah, the rig could be just like so. It's like that. Very basic. This one's a bit soft, this pilly.
Yeah.
Anyhow, all good?
Just on squirrels, have you heard black squirrels are better than silver?
Black's definitely better, as in less visual. If they come up and look at it, they don't sort of see what's going on that much, I don't think. I haven't never asked them, but I think that's how they look at it. But they're generally a better quality, mate. That's the most important thing. So you can put that hook through the side, through the top, through the under, but obviously a live bait is not soft like that. It sits in there nice, it stays there. The next we're going to rig up some garfish. So this is a gar. Gar is like one of the best baits for mackerel by far. I've shown many people how to do this, but you need to get that gar nice and soft. Okay, this is not live, this is dead. So first thing to do is snap off the beak just past the level of the top beak, okay, just past it. And then the next thing you do is that little lateral line, you squeeze on both sides of it, okay, starting at the front, and you pop the flesh. Can you see that pop off there? He also has got to squeeze the shit out of him too. Sorry guys. So just run your thumb down there and squeeze the poo out, okay? Then go back to here and just pop it off. So, and now it's like really soft,
That's
okay?
just make it more flexible. It's just
More flexible, yeah. It'll actually, you'll see it swimming in the water, mate, even with the gang hooks in it, which is pretty amazing. I'll let you tell a bit of a secret, and a pro fisherman taught me this many years ago. I don't know if you can still get it because I haven't done it for many, many years, but it used to work really well. But if you get it's in a blue bottle, I think it's called Blue. You use it for, I think it's used for washing material or something. I don't know. It's called Blue anyhow. I'll try and find it and take a picture and send it to you guys. But and what you do is you mix it with water and you put, but I think food colouring do the same thing, and you soak your garfish semi-defrosted in that blue colour, and they come out iridescent like blue, like flying fish colour, like beautiful, blue purple. So try colouring your gar. So go back to the bit bigger hook rig. So now we're going to be using, we'll use this bad boy here. So one of these might fit through. Actually, I'll pass it around to bobble on it maybe. So these are like your 7/0 size hooks. So just run it underneath again, same deal. Pivot around as you're doing it, keeping it all in the center. So my rig here is going to go up through just about where his eye is, or just in front of his eye. Again, keeping it centre like you said before. Now garfish have a really hard top on their head. The top part of their head is very hard. Be careful not to stab yourself with the wire.
So this is the other thing, because they're so hard, we didn't really touch on it before, but single strand wires, obviously there's different wire numbers or sizes. The heavier it is, the stiffer it is. So with a pilly, you only need about a size 4 or 5.
Which is like
With-
44 to
yeah.
58 pounds.
With this stuff, you need like 80 just to get through that.
Yeah, 80 to 100,
Yeah.
yeah. To get up through the body. And that's it. So this one's actually got a little bubble jet thing on it, so we'll pass that around so you can see how it works. So if you want to really do the job right on these bigger ones with bigger skirts, you can actually just pop the skirt over that bit of wire just to keep it all in place, and then if you get any more.
Do you pre-rig them the night before?
Not really. If I go and catch my own gar, though, I do. So if I go and catch my own gar in the Broadwater, which is normally after the mackerel season, but if there's a late mackerel season that year, which sometimes they're around to August, I've caught many Spanish mackerel in July and even August, I'll pre-rig them, yes.
Problem is you got to defrost them and then they get soft and yeah.
Yeah, if they're fresh, they're not too bad. Like the ones you catch yourself, like anything, it's
Yeah,
nice, you know.
Better.
But if you are doing frozen stuff and defrosting it, it doesn't work. Sorry, the leg. I missed the leg, Benny. That's all right.
So you said that was 80 pounds.
This is 86
yeah,
of them.
86 on it,
Yeah,
yeah.
86.
So you need to use pliers to do pay wires and stuff with
It's
that.
a lot easier.
Oh, you can do it with your hand, but
Yeah.
depends what year you're born. Sorry, Stu.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah, the young guys these days, they're more smarter.
Is there better brand wire? I've found some 30 that's near impossible.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Get the American wire, mate.
Yeah.
Don't get any Chinese stuff. So, Mason, Superflex,
Yeah.
Okay.
it's all good, yeah.
Yeah, I just got one and it was like 80, but it was set up. So.
So there's a bit of poo on here, be careful guys, but you'll see how that works. So, thanks, Stuart. So gooey.
Was that Mason or what was the other one?
Mason, mate, and Superflex. And I think Helco wire is also American as
Yeah,
well.
Helco's
Not
pretty
too bad, yeah.
Is there a split name for the seat, the leg you're running?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a net
Okay,
leg.
so the split net
Or
leads,
split leg.
we do sell these in 2 sizes. So the smaller size, I'll pass these around too. The smaller size we use on all our smaller rigs, like little slimies, pillies, stuff like that. And the bigger leads we're using on about a 7/0 or bigger.
And you just squeeze that on?
Yeah, squeeze on. Yeah, it doesn't have to be tight. Like we like to roll it over and make it a bit tight in the little ones.
Yeah.
But on the bigger ones, I just leave it loose or just roll it over. One flap over the top of the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, with a pair of multis. Multis are fine. Years ago, I used to shape them and make it pointy on the front, but yes, you don't need to do it. No, it's fine.
You run it without any lead?
Not really, because it just doesn't swim as good.
Need
Yeah,
to like keep its nose.
it's got to get the head down a little bit. Correct.
Yeah.
And you can get things which, like chin guards and stuff like that, which Stu, you had one here somewhere, haven't we? Put it in here. That's it. I'll pass that around too. That's like a chin guard. They come in different sizes too.
Yeah, I got some bonito the other week.
Yes. Little ones, yeah, beautiful. So,
It's just different sort of shape for the issue.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so they'll swim really well. I'm going to put a bit bigger lead on the front though, because they're so chunky. Yeah, yeah. Or put 2 leads on if you want.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. But you get, I'm just going to show you a quick way you how to rig a bonito. I was rigging a copper wire, haven't you, mate? No? You need copper wire. We don't have, anyone got a copper wire in their ute or something? Okay, the last rig to rig up is the bonito. So exhibit A. So big bait, but just think good sized fish. Nothing worse than a Mac tuna jumps on it though.
Would you run a tail set a tail out like this as well?
Yeah, same way. Exactly the same way. So that's bonito there. So the hooks we use on this, I'm using these fellows here. These are 9-0s, okay, pre-rigged. I just alter them a little bit. So I bend them up and take the swivel off the first one. So I use a pair of those hook coating pliers, as I said before. Or side cutters, take that swivel there off, bend these hooks up, shorten them up a little bit, and bend the first hook up a bit longer back, if that makes sense. So the rig looks a bit like this. I'm just quickly going to pass this around before I rig it up so you've got some idea what it looks like without the thing on it. And you'll see, I'll pass this around as well, and you can see how that went from that to that, if that makes sense. And I'll try and think what I'm going to use instead of copper wire. Do you want to get a bait needle, mate?
I'll get just some Dacron or something.
Dacron will be right, yep, thanks mate. And just a bait needle, mate, thanks. Thanks guys. So, well, a lot of people are too scared to rig up tailor and big baits because they think it's not going to work right. But they're the most beautiful looking things, thanks a lot mate. Most beautiful looking things in the water if you get them to swim right. And they just get nailed too quick, unfortunately. Sharks like them too. If you get shown, just do the way we're going to do it now, they work really well. And most of them will swim pretty good. You can trawl them up to about 3 knots, obviously 1.5 to 2 knots, just in gear. And you just hold it beside the boat. Always hold your bait beside the boat when you're doing baits before you drop it back. And if it's spinning, something needs to be adjusted, right? If it's doing the swim thing or just pull them nice and straight, even straight's okay, as long as it doesn't spin or do something weird, it's right to drop back. When you drop it back, try and keep the tension on your free spool the whole time back so it doesn't have time to spin around a bit or whatever. Too quick's not good. Just got to let it go back under a little bit of pressure as you're going forward. So sometimes I'll even go a little bit faster until I get my line out, because I could be under tension the whole time. And then when I get the desired length out, 30, 40 metres, I'll pull it back to slower speed then and put it in the rod holder. Okay. Just while we're doing that, guys, that live bait rig that went around, so just the other thing for Spanish mackerel, if you had anchor and you are fishing for spotties, particularly on the 18 fathoms out the front here or off the pin bar or down Tweed or even Palmy, I definitely have a livey out on a rig like that one. Just have one out the back somewhere. I know they get in the way a little bit. It's probably best to maybe put it under a float or a balloon to get it away from everything else. You've got a little tiny bit of wind. If you've got current against wind, like I said before, if it's blowing subtly, you hang north, but the current's going south. Those sort of times it's a bit hard to use a live bait. Unless you've got a centre console, you can put it right up the front. So those days, it's too awkward, don't do it. Not that far. No, not that far. So the best thing about coming on as the season progresses around sort of late March, April, May, you get the whales coming, so you get cobia as well, and they'll be on the surface as well. So keep it down maybe maximum 2 metres. Yeah. Thank you so much, Stuart. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Beautiful. So guys, so we'll just rig this up now. I know you can't see down the back, guys, and I appreciate you trying to hear what I'm going to say. Is that okay with you guys down there? Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you. So, obviously your bait's got to be defrosted. So with all your baits, as I did before that gar, you want it to be like a little bit supple. So just sort of bend a little bit, let that flesh sort of come off a little bit, You can even snap the tail and break the tail, so the tail flicks a lot more, but I wouldn't do that. This one's been defrosted most of the day, so it's not in the best condition. Would I put that rig? Sorry. Oh, the rig's going around. Sorry. When the rig comes back, I'll do it. Sorry, guys. I forgot about that. But while I was doing that, we'll do preparation. So first thing you do, get a knife and you split right dead set centre and split it back about 5 mil. So actually cut his mouth the other direction in the centre. Just like so. So I've gone down just enough there, okay? About 5 mil. And then you need a bake needle, and you use copper wire. You can use floss, like we've got here some Dacron. And go down just sort of in front of his eyes and in the centre as much as you can. Pull the cotton through, so bake needle, just pull it through like that, right? Okay, very easy. I'll just cut this off here. You can trim it back later. So he's sitting there like that, right? Okay, so what we've got to do is we've got to pull the front one up like so. Sorry. Twist it and pull it back up. No, it's actually just one through, sorry. So pull it up to the top, up to that position up here. So you want to tie that off at the top here, okay? As tight as you can get it. So just, I know you guys can't see it in the back or probably at the front, but you pull that up through his, that cut that we did. The beauty of wire is it doesn't untwist, right? This stuff's unfortunately not the best. Copper wire is much better to use. Okay, so it's through that split and then pulled from the top here, okay? That makes sense. Then what we're going to do is position that round a little bit further, about there.
Is that to keep the mouth shut?
No, it's the pulling point. So actually you're going to pull it from up higher. Then the other one's pulled from down here. This one's going to be pulled from up here. You want the eye of the hook to be even slightly above his nose. And that's the point it's pulled from. That's what makes it go like that and swim. But just when the hooks are ready, down the back there, I'll grab them off you. I'll show you how to do it. But while we're waiting for that, we go back to the live bait. So with the live baits, at anchor, it's a matter of, as I said, trying to keep the bait away from all the other lines. It's painful sometimes because they like to come back to the boat if something's chasing them for protection or whatever. So you just got to work it out, and it doesn't hurt to have one. Quite often I'll put like a 4-ball sinker on the bait, or 6-ball is a bigger bait, and get it down a bit in the column. So if I'm out on, say, the Diamond Reef and it's 41 metres deep and I know there's mackerel down about 20 metres, I'll drop him down 20 metres, you know. But if you're fishing mermaid, palmy, or one of those shallower areas, you want to have it down 2 metres from the top. Different scenario. Yeah. When you're trawling live baits, just let me know those hook rigs are done, guys. I'll bring them back up the front here. All good. When you're trawling live baits, guys, it's the same scenario. So you're hooking in, that's why I definitely run 2 trebles and the hook in the mouth. So 2 pinpoints are better. If the bait's semi-dead, I'd still trawl it if that's all you got, but try and keep the bait as fresh as you can, live and actually swimming on there. Trawl as slow as you can. The downrigger probably makes the scenario, say, particularly later in the season, around sort of March, April, about 10-fold more strikes. Okay? So how many people here got downriggers? Not many of you. Yeah, about to, yeah. Actually got yours exhibit B here. So.
When trawling live bait,
Yep.
put that head on it or a skirt or anything?
No. You just, it'll just swim just below the surface, mate. Yeah, so good question though. And so the gentleman's asked, when you're trying live bait, or even sometimes dead baits too, do you put any weight onto it? So yeah, I do sometimes, mate. So if my downrigger is going off all the time and I get nothing on my top ones, I'll then cut my line and I'll add, I add an 8-ounce barrel or a 12-ounce barrel of that size. So behind the boat, this is just the boat. Thank you so much for bringing that back. Cheers. Thank you. So this is the boat here. Sorry for the guys on the side here. That's your boat. And I got, say, 4 rods out, wherever they might be. Let's say this one's on downrigger. So this line here, I've got them all back around this distance. If I'm trawling with, and that's the water surface here, if I'm trawling with just the lead, the net lead on the first hook, my bait's probably sitting on about that angle below the surface, and it's just here, right? When I'm trawling with an 8-ounce barrel, my line will be sitting on about this angle and sitting down about here. And if I'm trawling a 12-ounce, it's about this angle. And the same distance out, it's sitting about there. And if I'm trawling a downrigger, obviously it's not much angle at all, and it's whatever distance you want it. But I can't get down 28 metres or 20 metres and 40 metres deep with it with the 12, but I can with 2 12s or 2 8s. So you put 2 on, mate. So what you do on your line, I'll get rid of that yucky fish. So sometimes I run it short, but I try and run a like a swivel, about 100-pound line, only very short, maybe 30 centimetres or 20 centimetres, just enough to get my 2 big sinkers on there. My barrels, those, I pass those around through. Thanks, mate. And then you have to hand line it in, guys. It's just the way it is. If you want to do it right, yeah, that's what you got to do. So then I'll run about 6 metres of, say, around 60 to 80-pound line, and then I'll have my rig tied to that with my fish on the end there, live or dead, depends. And that one there will sit at about that angle there. It'll be down the zone with 2 barrels on it. If the angle's like that behind the boat when you're trawling, very, very steep. Thank you very much.
So you've got your downrigger, but how many of these setups would you have at the same time?
So I'll run, if they're only hitting the downrigger, I'll run with two sinkers on it. And when I get the sinker up to the line, to my rod and the fish is still on there, I've got to put the rod holder and then hand line the fish in. But you get it, no problems at all. Yeah. Yep, okay. I'll have the downrigger, I'll have that one out, and then I'll have still 1 medium and 1 on the top, hoping. I still get hit on those too sometimes, but majority of the time it's on the downrigger or the other one. But if you haven't got a downrigger, it's just
you didn't cover it before. What are you using different outfits for your trolling?
So I should have everything properly done, but if you knew my gear, you'd know what I'm talking about. Still knows it.
Just heavier.
Whatever I got in the boat or I grab out of the shed at the time, that's what I use. Can be spin, can be overhead, can be a TLD, it can be like a TLD combo, like that sort of thing there. It's basic, plain, 30-pound mono, or 65-pound braid on some. I've got a few ones. Or it'll just be a spin, one of my jig outfits, but the heavier version, you know. So I wouldn't trawl much lighter than that bait runner system rod there before. I'd trawl that, no problems at all. And that's about it though, yeah. Anything lighter than that's just too hard. Except for the pillies for the spotted mackerel, I trawl light. Yeah, light too. But for Spanish, you know, again, sharks are a problem. And Spanish mackerel, they're just wild as it is, so it doesn't matter slow or fast, the sharks are going to hone in on them. You just need to get them into the boat. Yeah. So I go a bit hard, heavy. Yeah.
Do you use diving boards at all?
Yeah, so covering that in a moment as well. Got a few different ones here. So the downrigger, for those of you who don't know how a downrigger works, I'll cover that first. I've got to grab it because it's got a ball on the end of it here, a big heavy one. So this is what a downrigger looks like. This is a Canon downrigger made in the States, and they're the best by far. This has an adapter on the bottom which goes straight into your rod holder, so you can put it anywhere around the boat, or you can put it on your mate's boat, whatever it might be. We then changed the wire to braid because wire sings, so those who got downriggers understand what I'm saying, so it makes like a singing noise. I still catch fish on my downriggers. Originally I had wire on, but now they've got braid, and most of the ones we sell we put braid on, so 150 pound braid. The ball weight's 10 pound, hence why it's straight down, okay? But there's still an angle on it, even doing 1 knot, it still pulls out a bit. At the back here you can run a clip, or you can run just a piece of that Dacron that we use for rigging the bait here, with just a half hitch on a rubber band. So you put a rubber band in your line, so what you do is you drop your line back 20 or 30 metres, and then you put a rubber band on your line, and then you attach a rubber band onto your clip or onto that bit of cord, and then you then put your hand on the spool of your overhead, so if you're using overhead, and pull it back free spool, hold it because it's going to go down fairly quick, and drop the tension back unless you just wind the handle backwards and it goes out, okay? And drop it down under load, and to the depth you got a little counter on the side here, up the front here, and okay, you see the fish, you mark them at 20 metres down, 18 metres down, and I drop my ball down maybe a metre above that, okay? And my line's still 20 metres behind the ball. And what happens is you load it up at that depth. Once you get the right depth, your rod's sitting in the rod holder just inside the boat. I don't ever use that rod holder, but you can. And then I load my rod up, which means that my rod's really bent because it's taking the weight of the ball. And what happens is when you get a strike, the rod doesn't bend, it pops up. So it goes loose. And when it goes loose, you grab the rod out and you wind as quick as you can, take up the slack, and it's on there. And that's how it works.
It's never going to take the full weight of the ball, but so don't try to wind it up. But like your rod.
Oh, your rod.
Your rod's loaded, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't ever wind the ball. Yeah. If you want to break, if say you get a hit and it doesn't pop off, you obviously try and pull it out of this down below. You just pull on the rod or snap your rubber band. If you're using rubber bands, use size 16 rubber bands. Okay. Rubber bands are really good for fishing. Size 16 should have a bag of 1,000 in your boat. Okay, I'd perish to get another bag, they're cheap. But that's how the downrigger works, and you've got to have that set back though of 20 or 30 metres back. Okay, and your bait will just swim nicely, or your dead bait will swim nicely, and that's how it works. So, the paravanes though, thank you, Stuart. The paravanes though, so these are paravanes. There's all different types and sizes and models. I'll pass that one around because that's more or less a copy of that style there. We sell lots of these to guys up Moreton Bay for spotties and that. And they do the similar scenarios of the two sinkers. They run about 20 metres back behind the paravane, or 12 to 20 metres. And they hand line the last part of the line in. So they pull the fish by hand. But it gets their lines down 10, 20 metres. Okay, so I'll pass those around, you can have a look. So you clip on the front of it and attach your line on the back of it with a snap swivel, and your line's way out the back. And it actually just dives and keeps pulling the line down. So once you've got that in the water, you just keep leaving it in free spool and letting it sort of a bit of tension on it though, and let it dig itself down and pull the line off your reel till it's at the desired maximum depth it can go, and that's where you have it set at. You won't ever really know where it is, but if you've got colour line, you can sort of gauge it by the angle and how much it's stripped off before it stops going down any further. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, any questions on that part of it?
What speed would you travel?
The paravanes, if I'm dead slow, you've got to get working. It's a bit like a deep diving lure. If you go too slow, it doesn't do anything. If you go too fast, it'll actually spin up and blow out of water and whatever. So you've got to get that happy medium speed, which is generally about 2 to 5 knots. Yeah. It can get slower, but you've got to get it working. Okay, so getting back to this bad boy here. So, put my glasses on. The rig is here somewhere, Stewie. Thank you, sir. Cheers, mate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure it out to where it's going to sit with that hook sitting about that position there. So my first hook's going to be roughly about here. And again, just pop it in. This guy's actually, as I said, it's a bit soft. He's been out all day. So can you see that eye sort of sitting just above him right there? Can you see that? That's the position you want it to be at, okay? And then what we do then, with copper wire it's easier again, as I said, you just sort of wrap it round and round. But you need to go either way. I got this confused on the head before actually. But copper wires, you got to have copper wires too, yeah. So go round under the eye of the hook. Go around a couple of times. Don't ever get the top loop of the wire in it as well, guys. That won't work. And that's it. Then just trim off the. Thanks to it.
What sort of mackerel are you expecting there?
Oh, anything from Spotty, believe it or not, to big. Yeah, Spotties will still take this too. They don't care. They're not shy. So that'll just sort of swim there. But when you got copper wire, I can't do it with this Dacron. That's got to be pulled up tight to his head there pretty well, right? But it'll give you the gist of it, how it works.
What's the bait that size? What size setup would you run?
That's a good call. 50 pound braid minimum or 30 pound mono, but 50 pound would be better. Yeah. So anything big that's around, like, big wahoo, they love that, Anything decent. The guy got a, I don't know if you guys heard about the guy that got the yellowfin tuna last weekend out, was it Mermaid?
It's just
front,
enclosed.
Enclosed at the front here. It's 20.
18s.
20, how big is it?
It was about 20 kilos, a big
20,
one.
Yeah, like 50 pound yellowfin. So at this time of year, we always get big fish cruising around enclosed. So just don't be scared to put big baits out. But this year, as we spoke earlier, they're not taking big baits. But the bigger fish come later. So what happens is normally, how mackerel work is it works on water temp. So as the water temp gets too hot, they keep going south more. And as they get south, they get them right down to, I don't know, southwest rocks. So they'll keep going south, going south, going south. And then within about 3 to 4 or 5 weeks, normally the water current starts to stop going south, the hot water, and it'll start getting cooler and they start doing a dog leg back this way. But by the time they get back here, which is generally that second hit we get around Easter time to July, August, depends on how long our water stays around 22 degrees out here before it goes into snapper mode, which it already is snapper mode, but it's not cold.
Yeah.
But when it goes around 22, that's about when they nick off up north again. But we have that grace period till that time. So, and the size is enhanced or increased by about probably 50%. So they go past us at about 8 to 12 kilos and they come back at like 12 to 20 kilos. Does that make sense? Yeah. So some of the ones we got late last year were like 20 kilos, 22 kilos. They say about ciguatera poison. Like I've never had any dramas, guys, and I've caught thousands of mackerel maybe over my time and never had a drama. Stewie's had drama. He's had a drama with cold trout. He got ciguatera cold trout, but he got a bad too, by the way. But he hasn't had it off Spanish yet. But you did have a spotted mackerel.
Yeah, I reckon a Spotty the other day knocked me around a little bit. But once you get it in your system, that's it. You got it forever, and we'll see how it goes.
Lucky you, mate.
Gee, thanks.
Yeah. But no, it's not a good thing, Stuart. And Anyone here got ciguatera poisoning at all, or fish? Anyone? You have had it? Oh, you got it still?
Off a brim.
No.
Yeah.
Serious?
Massive flooding took this brim off of Crab Island. I was
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, right.
This was, I was young, and I hurled, it batted out, and I hurled it back at it, and it came back out.
As you would.
Again,
Yeah.
and it took it again.
Yeah.
And I was so young. I was probably only 20, and it spatted out again. And I actually took the brim home, and it was a bit mangled up, and filleted it, and ate it, and ended up in hospital.
Serious?
With
From a brim?
ciguatera,
I've
from
never.
the flathead.
Oh, from the flathead.
Flathead had given it to the
Brim.
brim.
Oh, because the flathead was so big and old or whatever.
Yeah,
Perhaps it was, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the story for it.
Yeah. I didn't know that, anyhow. So guys, ciguatera poisoning is not good, but there's only been a couple of cases of mackerel on the Gold Coast where it's done its damage, and it's normally by someone who gives it out to everyone on the street, and everyone else catches it, and it becomes a big thing on the news. But it's just Russian roulette, I guess. But you're pretty safe. So yeah, the biggest fish mackerel we've probably eaten out here is maybe close to 50 pounds, and no dramas. Yep, and eaten plenty 20 kilo ones. Okay. Any questions on the bait going around, guys? You sort of get the gist of it, but if you use wire, pull it up tighter, okay?
And do you run,
Copper wire.
do you run anything like warheads with them?
Yeah, I do. So instead of using the skirt and that Venturi type head, so wog heads are what they are, guys. They're like a metal head that weigh 3 ounces, 84 grams. They have like fizz hair or this sort of crystal flash skirt hanging at the back of them, and the garfish or the cone sits up in the head of it. And they're very popular up north for mackerel fishing. They're popular down here too, but they're very hard to get. That's the problem. But they're very good as well. Yep. And you control those fast. It's a bit like the Venturi thing. You can actually, I've trawled them at 6, 7 knots. You've got marlin in them.
Kind of protect the bait a bit more.
Yeah, they protect the bait a bit more. That's right. Yep.
Do you run anything with those bigger baits, Taylor or the Bender or anything like that?
Over the front.
Yeah.
No, nothing. No, just let them swim. Yeah, don't let them, because they're so big they need to swim. Otherwise they'll spin and not do the right thing. Yeah.
You get it, but anyway, Taylor, worth putting on live.
If you got 35 centimetre one, yes. Yes, definitely. Only live bait, live tuna. If you get, like tuna hard to keep alive as it is, but if you throw them back in the water, they'll live pretty good. Tuna are good. Just put a couple of treble stingers in it, and maybe one in the mouth and the nose. Oh, in here and out. Yep. And keep the hooks short. Always have some live bait hooks in your bucket of your tackle box. And for me, my case, it's a plastic bag, and make sure you have a range of like 6, 7, 8s, and 9s, so fairly big hooks, and they're the leading hook all the time. Don't use a long shank like that style, because it's just too obscure, too easy to see, you know. Yeah, not obscure, the reverse of that. But yeah. Guys, just on bait jigs, real last thing I want to tell you real quick about. I know we're a bit late because we started late. Just for bait jigs, have a range of bait jigs in your boat because live bait is such a good thing. If you're getting big slimies, you need to use bigger hooks. It's a lot easier to control. As you know, the hook's too small, slimies getting a big ball, they get tangled up and the line's too light and it can't control them. They control it. If you've got heavier, bigger hooks, the line's a bit thicker and a bit stronger, and a lot less chance to get tangled up with slimies, right? When you do get your bait up, try not to grab it. Learn to use one of these little things, a little bait dehooker. And you've got your bait string there. You try and shake it and drop them in the bait tank, but half the time they don't fall off. You just get this little thing here, I'll pass this around, hook it onto the branch just above it and just go like that, and they just fall straight off into the bait tank without touching them. Yeah. I think that's about it, Stu. We've covered everything.
Yep.
Any questions at all, guys, on anything? The Spanish mackerel, you get them in close, you get them out wide, you just don't get the spotties out wide. So you get Spanish mackerel, the spotties, but you won't get spotties or Spanish mackerel out in deep water. Very rare. Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thanks, Stuart. Cheers, mate. Okay, draw time. Thanks, Sam. So, we didn't expect this many people for tonight, and I appreciate you guys putting up with the proximity or closeness. It's all good. Sorry. Is he here? Oh, okay. Is it number 20? No, number 20. Oh, you're number 20. Oh, your bag's over there, mate.
I've got a bag here.
Oh, have you? Oh, okay. Is that your bag?
It might be his bag.
Yeah, okay. Your bag's over there. That's all right. Oh, no. Oh, you got your bag?
One
Oh,
fella
okay.
left. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so he's gone. Yeah, cool. Okay, just grab it on the way out. Happy days. Okay, so we'll do the draw. So, guys, about $1,300 worth of gear here tonight, and the first one's valued about, I think, around 400 and something, and I think it is. Let me do this one. Not sure which one. Sorry, I'll take the rod out for a sec. Is that one or two? That's one. Okay, Stewie. Thank you. Guys, thanks for coming along tonight. Be patient with these closures and we'll all get by. It'll all be good.
Number 20.
Number 20. Rigged. Thanks, thanks. Actually, I can pull the rod apart, I think. Thank you. Well done, mate.
Thank you.
Okay, let's try and pull number 28 out next. Stu.
You go.
Thanks, mate. We're doing normally Stewie pulls out the ones at the front, but I'm doing that tonight. Oh, I don't think he's here. Vlad's not here, is he? No, Vlad. No, Five's not here. Okay, how's that? Like, that's uncanny. I'm going to let Misaka have a crack. Misaka? Oh, sorry. Sorry. Thank you. Redraw. Sorry, Vlad, did you stay out, buddy? Number 2 prize, I think, is worth about 300 or a bit over. Oh my gosh. It's up the front again. Gavin. Over that side. Okay, Gavin. That's yours, mate. That one. Well done, buddy. Oops, and that one. Thanks, mate. Thank you. Good man. Okay, next one's Misako. Have another go. Yeah, I don't have another go. Thank you. Middle pack, number 13, which is Glenn. Well done, Glenn. Go ahead, buddy. That's yours, mate. Thank you, Misako. Stuart, your turn, buddy. So we've got, I think, 8 prizes in total, guys. So number 4, which I think is still around 150, 200 bucks.
Number 22.
Sorry, guys, it's coming. Somewhere in here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Number 22?
22, yep.
Yep. Got anybody? Thanks, mate. Okay.
Hey, mate, you go.
Sorry, Stu.
Here you go.
Thank you, mate. Okay, I've got the front again. I keep drawing the front close ones. Stuart, you're up, buddy. Cook. Oh, Stuart. No, wrong one. That's right, yeah, it's 9. Sorry. Mate, you are... That one there. Thank you, buddy. Good man, mate. Congratulations. I'll let you look. I can't see the name. Sorry, Stu.
Here you go.
It's like my eyes are so bad. So, guys, anyone heading up the reef this season at all for reefish? No? Okay, cool. Oh, right at the back, one of the lake runners. I think it's Cody, I think.
Alf.
Oh,
30s. 37.
Oh, no.
Is it?
Yeah.
Cody.
Cody, sorry.
Yep.
That's you, mate. That's you. Thank you, my friend. Well done, Cody. Good done, buddy. And Misako. Did you hurt your finger? Oh, same thing. 25, Stuart.
Darren? No.
We're having a shocker, aren't we? Well done, mate. Thank you. Cheers, buddy. Thank you. And last one, guys. So, guys, we will be open for an hour and having 30% off set for the reels. Best price online. And Stewie, last one's going to be our next seminar, guys. By the way, because we don't want to do the Wahoo till late March, but we're going to bring it early because it's just they're already starting to show up. They're bycatch at the moment as well, by the way. So we're going to do one on Wahoo and big yellowfin tuna. The little yellowfin is still around, so they're not normally here till later too. But this year they've rocked up in January, early January. So it'll be Wahoo and that. That's on the 20. There is 2 weeks from now. 23rd, is it? Yeah, 23rd. Then Stu and I are both away fishing a lot in March, so I'm going to the reef out Swains area, and Stewie's going out barra fishing, so we'll try and squeeze in there somewhere, but we're going to be doing one on, it'll be prawning probably, so a bit left field. Guys, right at the front again, it's Adrian. Adrian, that's you, buddy. Well done, mate. Last one, but it's okay. Thanks, mate. So guys, thanks for coming along. Anything you need to know, any knots you want to be learnt to do, just come in during the week. Any day except Tuesday or Wednesday is probably best. Yeah. And we can show you. Okay. And we'll be downstairs now. We'll catch you downstairs. Thank you. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.
Stuart. Thank you. Thanks, mate.